Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Animal. Today I'm here to get up on my soapbox because lately, it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the need for recreation or extension of certain shows have become unnecessarily so. And I say this, one, because I watch Naruto like many other people in the world who grew up watching Naruto for the sake of watching, for the continuation of our love of Naruto, hoping that we would see Naruto, become Hokage and what he's like as Hokage. But obviously, knowing that we would be following around his kids and his friends' kids. However, as of late, and I'll be really frank with you, I have not watched a single Boruto episode since about the end of February. Because Boruto is being Boruto again. Slow, weird fillers, odd pacing. Wait, slow and odd pacing go hand in hand. And the storyline just makes no sense. And I guess inherently this is what's wrong with filler sometimes. But nonetheless, this also comes off an extension of the end of Fire Force. While Fire Force is a magnificent story, anime-wise, I'm not reading the manga, but have seen online that apparently Fire Force is the prequel to Soul Eater. And I just finished watching Soul Eater for the sake of understanding, and I don't really get how they're connected. Obviously, I haven't read the end of Fire Force yet. I'm hoping that I will fully understand as I watch the manga, and the manga either A, gets fully animated, or B, I don't feel like waiting anymore and I'll read the manga. But long story short, in having a semi-debate with someone about whether it made sense or not, I couldn't definitively say whether it made sense or not. And I beg to question whether it was a play made because it was the overall grand scheme of things by the creator, the mangaka, or because they really loved their original creation, Soul Eater, and thought that they'd love to make a prequel to it without telling their fans until the end. I know fans were really enthusiastic to see this, who were big fans of Soul Eater, and then also became fans of Fire Force. But before I go off on my crazy tangent, let me get back to my main point. The need for sequels or prequels or all these things that's very popular in regular TV shows, I feel like is starting to plague anime a little bit. But more specifically so, Boruto and Yashahime. Yashahime was created off of Inuyasha. If you grew up in the kind of like early 2000s of watching anime on Toonami, for those of you who don't know what Inuyasha is quite possibly one of the very first and greatest isekai ever. So if you haven't watched it, watch Inuyasha. It's like kind of like the birth of isekai. And I may be wrong because I don't know any isekai before that, but if you're within my age range or watched anime in the early 2000s, it's quite possibly the start of all isekai that we know today. So, basically what I'm trying to get at here is, are our wonderful creators, mangakas, anime studios creating sequels and prequels for absolutely no reason because they feel like they can milk the opportunity and milk the nostalgia of fans? So, as I mentioned in my intro, the creation of sequels and or prequels is undoubtedly an issue. They can be done really well, don't get me wrong, because there are many out there, obviously, with some great examples. Dragon Ball Z was created in the late 1980s, and then after followed Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. Dragon Ball Z was a magnificent sequel to Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball is fantastic too. Dragon Ball obviously did have its own issues and is probably one of the first known to say, hey, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were super popular and super hype. Let's go ahead and create Dragon Ball GT, pick up right where we left off at the end of Dragon Ball Z, but we're gonna make the storyline completely original, completely incoherent, and we're gonna make the characters really annoying, and yeah, let's make Goku a kid again. Like, really random shit that happened during Dragon Ball GT that personally I didn't like it much. And I'll also say that I've watched Dragon Ball GT in various language forms. My first exposure to Dragon Ball GT was in Portuguese while I was traveling in Portugal, and then I watched it again in English, and both of them were equally as confusing. people obviously had to beg for understanding as to why this was done. Obviously, simply put, it was done for the garnered views and the popularity and, or so I dare say it, money. As we continue down our path from the 90s to the 2000s and now the year is 2022, every fan of anime and of particular fandoms is not unfamiliar with the concept of prequels, sequels, and the creation of them out of thin air. In the case of Boruto, the latest season has just been strange. Obviously, the creation of Boruto overall had higher expectations. When you have a magnificent anime like Naruto, and when I say magnificent, please don't come at me saying like, oh, I'm saying it's the best thing ever. No, it's definitely one of the most popular anime to be viewed by most people these days. If you talk to most people as to the first animes that they've probably watched, it was either Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Sailor Moon. If you like magical girls, people are probably rattling off one of those few for some of the most popular ways for getting into anime. So being that Naruto was that popular, I think it was only obvious at some point someone was going to say, hey, the popularity of Naruto was pretty amazing. What do you say we make a sequel to this? And except doing a story to continue upon Naruto, because we did 700 episodes on him and we made a bunch of movies, and even though he's Hokage now, and people haven't seen him become like Hokage and what he can do as Hokage, we're gonna make this story centralized around his children, or his child Boruto. And while the show does show Naruto in his like Hokage role here and there, you don't really get to see much of it until some of the most recent episodes, or the later chapters. For those who read, they would have a better sense as to which arc it is, but within the episodes, it's fairly recent. Now here's what I will say. The episodes in which we get to see Naruto's like display of Hokage, his strength, along with Sasuke, what they are like as adults, are some of the most exciting material that I'll see. While Boruto has his own feats, I just can't seem to shake off that Boruto is just a carbon copy of his dad, just a little bit smaller, and I just find his character so boring. Is it just me? So in many instances, and what brings me here today again, is that why create a show about his son when there was still so much opportunity, I personally feel, to create on Naruto himself as a Hokage? Because just the little material we've gotten alone of Naruto and Boruto have been quite possibly the most hyped, the most well-liked arcs. And then everything else is kind of like, so what are we doing here now? What are we doing here today? What's the storyline? How does this connect to the overarching actual story? Is this more filler again? You can kind of almost right away tell when something's going to be filler within the first 2 to 3 episodes, and I think this is where I'm at today. Now, before I continue to bash Boruto in the head, and actually I should just cease to bash Boruto in the head, I may have just killed that right there. Boruto, Naruto, this whole sequel situation are not the only ones that are culpable of this happening. Inuyasha and Yashahime are also victims of this situation, where they created a spin-off, not a spin-off, but a sequel, and the sequel just doesn't have as much emotional oomph that Inuyasha had. Inuyasha was a show about a girl from modern-day Japan that found a well, fell into this well, and got transported or teleported into feudal era Japan, basically got isekai'd into another world. And this other world basically had humans and demons kind of living at war, or sometimes living in harmony, where they bred half-demons. In this instance, Inuyasha is a half-demon dog who has a brother who is a full demon. They both have different moms. Basically, long story short, they decided to jump to the future where a lot of our main characters get married and have children. So if you watch Inuyasha, then you know the likes of Inuyasha and Kagome had a child. Her name is Moroha. And then Seishomuru and Rin, who was like a 9-year-old girl in Inuyasha, seemed to get married to Seishomuru, who is a demon, and I don't really know how old he is. He's probably a couple hundred years old. Yeah, there's just weird stuff about that. But they have daughters as well. Their names are Toa and Setsuna. And the story kind of stems around the fact that all of these girls at a young age were separated from their parents or lost, and they have almost no recollection of as to who their parents are. So Moroha doesn't know where her parents are. She doesn't know whether they're dead or alive, but they're somewhere out there in the feudal era universe. Similar situation for Setsuna and Toa, except for Setsuna and Toa don't know that they're twins and we're even siblings. So that's another relationship rift that needs to be built. And if you've watched Inuyasha again, you'll know that Sesshomaru isn't the easiest guy to get along with. Imagine having him as a father figure. Yikes. So, while Inuyasha was extremely popular, and if you haven't watched it, you were living under a rock in the early 2000s, because that thing slapped on Toonami/Adult Swim, like one of the greatest like slept on anime ever during that era. But overall, I expected a similar type of vibe, especially since we were gonna get to see like their daughters. But unfortunately, the vibe's not there. The emotional connection is not there. I watch Yashahime and I just like feel so detached, to the point that, do you ever have an instance where you have a show or an anime where you just start to watch it in hopes that it'll be like amazing, and at some point you've been sucked in and you just kind of want to see how it ends, that you start doing like your household chores and multitasking while you watch it? Yeah, that's kind of what Yashahime has become for me, and I hate to say that because in the very beginning I was hooked. I was like, all right, I want to know where Inuyasha is, I want to know where Kagome is, Moroha is gonna find her parents, they gotta be alive. Sesshomaru, father figure, I want to see how he is as a dad, I want to see how powerful his daughters can be, because he's a really strong demon. And while the female characters are magnificently strong, and for another reason I really wanted to watch is because all of our main characters are women, females, and I was like, alright, yes, shonen empowerment, I love this. But is it just me, or is it just lacklustering in the same type of emotion and connection and sense of danger that Inuyasha had? I just feel like the imminent danger isn't like quite there all the time. Like there was one instance where the danger was real, but it was just once. We are now 2 seasons deep, and I feel like this may get another season for the sole fact that you've probably got a lot of Inuyasha fans watching this, and I should look to see how many people are still watching this or actually engaging in it. But it just goes to show that sometimes nostalgia can build up a momentum for a show, but in the wrong way. And then people will watch, and it's just like, so when are we gonna get to the good stuff? And I feel like we give these shows the benefit of the doubt. Now, I've talked about 2 core examples, Yashahime and Boruto, today. While they do have some good points here and there, unfortunately the cons list for both of them are very long, to the point that I'm very ready to remove Boruto from my watch history, because I really don't know. I heard there's some upcoming arcs that are going to be freaking fantastic, and I feel like at this point I should just abandon the show and watch and read the manga, right? I feel like that's what most people are doing, right? Right? I don't know, I feel conflicted. But long story short, what I do have to say is that if you do ever see a prequel or a sequel of animes that were extremely popular from like a decade ago or more than a decade ago, proceed with caution. I think that's what I'm going to say. Proceed with caution, because you will be like honey potted. Is that what you would say? You'll be sucked into it, thinking that you will get similar quality or close enough quality to the predecessors, and then realize that things are not quite as it is. So, people, if you see an announcement for a show like similar levels to like Naruto or freaking Inuyasha, even Bleach is getting a sequel series to like OG Bleach, like they're continuing it after Ichigo became an adult and everything. And he has his own kid now too. I guess kind of has some Soul Reaper abilities. I'm just like, hold on a second. Usually this situation doesn't go well. Bleach ended a long time ago, even though we're getting the 1,000-year Blood War arc. This 1,000-year Blood War arc was the actual end a few years ago. We just never got to see it animated. But now that we're seeing animated, it's a continuation of the actual storyline. What we're talking about here is they're saying, hey, Ichigo, thanks for saving the world and or whatever. You took a break. You're an adult now. You're now like in your late 20s or 30s. Let's pick this up again. Let's see what your Soul Reaper powers are like. And while maybe it may be a little bit different since we're not following their children around, because quite frankly, I don't want to follow anybody's kids around anymore. I don't want to see Barto's story. I don't want to see Toa, Setsuna, and Moroha's story anymore. Maybe Moroha. I actually really like her character, and I wish she was the star of the show, but instead it's Sesshomaru's daughters. But like, I don't want to see anybody's kids anymore as sequels. And I would prefer you guys just focus on like the actual characters that built like the empire of these shows. However, if you ended a story and like honestly it ended well or fans were cool with it or whatever, then please don't pick it up again. Well, that's gonna do it for me today. Let me know in the comments if you know any other shows that I should look out for or anybody else should look out for that's a sequel or a prequel that is actually worth watching or perhaps not worth watching. Please do your fellow anime friends a favor. Warn them. If you've seen something and it's not great, spare them the loss of time, because I wish someone would have told me that I would have been wasting this much time on Boruto. While very well watched and has been on for like 5 years now, I really don't know if I can continue. So do everybody else a favor. Warn them beforehand like I'm warning you. And until next time, this has been Mel. The channel is AnyMel. I'll catch you soon. Hope you all have a great week or weekend whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you soon.